in on what we're talking about here and the segment of the squall line that's got the actual tornadoes warning associated with it. And it's this cell that's just off the coastline right now of Miramar Beach and Grayton Beach, looking just down towards the southwest. We've had a little rotation with that storm cell. You can see some heavy rains and some frequent lightning occurring with it as well. It's probably got some gusty straight-line winds, but there's also potential that we could be seeing some rotation. So if we flip this over toward our velocity signatures and get an idea of what's happening with our winds in the atmosphere, you can see there's a little couplet that's trying to take shape here for us, where we have winds changing directions with height. A little difficult to see them to get back and then forward again on the storm system. There you'll be able to see your legend a little bit better here for us. I'm going to zoom right back in on that tornado warned segment of the squall line. But it's this little couplet that we've got down towards the south where winds are rotating with it. A lot of the rotation is very tight and starting to tighten up even further maybe along that couplet itself. But it's southwest right now of Miramar Beach. It's looking towards the southwest of Grayton Beach here onto the coastline. Likely that we've got maybe a waterspout trying to take shape in this general vicinity and work its way further off towards the north. For the most part, the winds associated with this system may be showing a little bit of rotation. So you're looking at velocity, and that is showing us a depiction of colors. Typically, you're looking at reds and greens here, but when we do have maybe some strong winds in association with a squall line feature, it can kind of mix out some of the colors here for us. But nonetheless, we're looking at some pretty strong winds that are actually moving toward the radar scan in this general vicinity, and then maybe weakly away. So we've got a couplet that's trying to take shape with this storm cell that's just to the south and southwest of the coastline here, and just southwest of Miramar Beach. It looks like we're off the coast at this point in time by about, from Miramar Beach, 2 or 3 miles, 3 or 4 miles, and from Grayton Beach, about 7, 8, 9 miles away from the coastline there. So this is a good heads up on this waterspout trying to move its way up onto the coastline. Usually when we have these water spouts that develop into squall lines, we can see them kind of weaken as they work their way up onto the coastline, and then we'll have to monitor to maybe see if the squall line can actually support the rotation as it works its way over land. But heading further towards the north and east is where we'd be watching for the potential of this system to work its way up on towards the shore. Now, it's a line of showers and thunderstorms, but embedded in it is a storm cell that's showing rotation. Let's get an idea of where it's heading. Off towards the northeast is where it's going, and looks like it'll be encountering some portions of the Panhandle in this general vicinity, the eastern portions of the Choctawhatchee Bay, southern Walton County. Let me back that out. So my squall track, I thought I clicked on that one. There we go. We'll time this out for you as it works its way further off towards the north. So areas like Sacred Heart, Santa Rosa Beach, South Walton High School, Fluffy Landing. You guys have this storm system moving on shore in about the next 15 to 30 minutes. Now, we also have meteorologist Dan Nyman in here this morning as well. Dan, we were talking about this storm cell before the National Weather Service actually went ahead and issued on it here for us this morning. They talked about seeing a little bit of upper level rotation as well, Dan, and want to know if they're still looking at this storm cell right now and what they're talking about with the rotation.
Yeah, they're still keeping an eye on it, obviously. It looks like in the last radar scan, maybe we saw some of that rotation pull apart a little bit, become a little bit less concise, but it's still something to keep an eye on. This warning is in effect till 5:15 this morning. They're also mentioning that we have some additional severe thunderstorm warnings. So in addition to that tornado warning in effect, we're seeing the winds across the area, not that rotation, but just general straight line winds, fairly strong across the Panhandle at the moment. Many of the strongest winds we're seeing right now are just a bit further north in parts of Alabama and now moving into Georgia as well. But for the moment, it looks like circulation here is still something to continue to keep an eye on. You're all right there. I want to show you some of the tower cameras across the region right now. Here's a look outside in Destin, for example. the rain's beginning to come down fairly heavily. So even in areas that we're not seeing those tornado warnings, not seeing the severe thunderstorm warnings, still going to affect your morning commute when you're seeing the rainfall as quickly as it is at the moment. Visibility is going to be greatly increased in those sorts of situations.
Yeah, that's good.
Look outside of Miramar Beach. Just to the north of where we're watching this area of rotation, this camera pointed towards the Gulf at the moment. And you'll notice it's just kind of a bit of a dreary sight there. I'll show you the radar then once again, though. That's kind of the most important thing at the moment. Here's a look at our velocities once again. So looking at the wind speeds in the atmosphere, winds moving towards and then away from the radar station. Not seeing those reds and greens like we normally see with the tornadoes, but this is where we're keeping an eye on. I'll draw a box for you here so you can see. There's the light blue here and then the green as well. That's kind of the area we're keeping an eye on. Looks like at the moment it's continuing to maybe lose a little bit of that definition at the moment. So Ryan, you want me to step over and take over for you? Or Ryan is off the screen.
Yeah, Dan, that's right. Yeah, we do have tornadic activity here associated with that cell. There is some rotation showing up when it does come to velocity signatures here on the squall line itself. So the tornado warning is in place until 5:15. We're looking at southern portions of Walton County right now. The actual cell that's trying to move its way onshore is coming up out of the Gulf from the southwest. And rotation maybe about 2 or 3 miles off the coastline here at this point with that storm cell. You can see it trying to move its way up with the squall line feature, which is this band of showers and thunderstorms that's been steadily working its way further towards the east. I'm going to zoom in on this storm cell itself here and get you an idea of what we're talking about, and it's almost on reflectivity showing a pretty good indication that we've got some hooking going on. And what we can tend to see is sometimes these hooks look the other way around, but this is almost an inverted looking hook. And well, that's indicating to me on reflectivity that not only have we had those strong winds coming in out of the south ahead of this line, but we've also had some pretty good winds coming in on the back side of it as well. And can you notice with those westerly winds punching into this squall line that we're actually starting to create a little bit of an indentation in where some of those heavy rains are located. Heavy rains on radar and reflectivity are indicated with the oranges, the reds, somewhat moderate rains when it comes to some of the yellows, the greens indicating lighter showers. But you can certainly see how those winds are starting to push in to the backside of this squall line feature and almost undercut this the storm cell itself. Winds out ahead of the line are coming in from the south. And so as this is starting to push in, we're wrapping around, breaking up a portion of this segment of the storm, and it's starting to cause the winds to actually wrap and curl into that little section right there. And so this is what we actually call a hook when it comes to reflectivity, a classic signature on reflectivity that tells us that there's potential for rotation with this storm cell. And we've seen that actually when it comes to our velocity signatures. Now here's the latest scan. It's 4:54 here this morning. That cell is starting to work its way a little bit closer to the coastline. Let's zoom in a little bit closer to the beaches here and see exactly which ones may be encountering some strong winds right now, indicated by the bright banding going on, some of the greens and blues there. But looks like we're just off the coastline of 30A. We're going to be moving with this storm system off towards the northeasterly direction. If you look over towards the left side of your screen, there's the Gulf Pines region. We're just going to be a little east of that by probably about a mile or two. Yeah, it looks like it. About a mile or two east of Gulf Pines. And then I think we've got also, looks to be South County Highway 393. Okay, so that's 393 here towards our right side of the screen. And we are going to see some strong winds actually trying to move onto the coastline right there, but maybe about a mile or so to the west of 393 is where we've seen this couplet move through. Now, on recent scans, it has weakened quite a bit there when it comes to the rotation here with it. Don't quite see that tight couplet that we had maybe 5 minutes ago. We'll see what National Weather Service wants to do with it. But in this general vicinity, let's go ahead and start to find our safe place places. I'm sure your phones have gone off, let you know that there's a warning in place. You can turn up the TV loud. You can go into that safe place in your household, which is away from the windows, bottom story, centralized location. Turn up the TV volume, be able to hear my voice loud enough as this storm system works its way on through, and we'll let you know when the all clear starts to show up. But we certainly have some gusty winds occurring, whether there's rotation anymore with this system or not. And we've seen reports of already up to about 40 to 50 mile per hour winds in association with this squall line. So I'm sure it's sounding pretty rough outside your house right now, but if we go ahead and find that safe place in our household, we'll be able to go ahead and cruise this storm on out and let it move on by. And then in maybe about 15, 20 minutes, you'll be hearing things calm down just a little bit more when it comes to the showers and the thunderstorms. But the tornado warning's in effect for 5:15, until 5:15, that is, from now until 5:15. And well, I'm not seeing too much in terms of tight rotation, but maybe a little bit more broad rotation at this point in time. Looks like we've got still that circulation going on right here as it nears the coastline, but can be the case when it comes to water spouts, Dan, that well, once they start to encounter a little bit of friction with land, that starts to roughen up a little bit of the winds. It starts to roughen up the storm structure with these systems, with water spouts when they come up on shore. And friction can honestly be a benefit to us when it comes to watching water spouts move on.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't think friction to be such an important thing when we're talking about these water spouts, but it really is. You know, you get the winds moving freely out of the Gulf waters, which at the moment, you know, provide a smooth surface. They don't really interfere with things. But when this couplet here, or this area of rotation that we're seeing, begins to move towards the shore and encounters, you know, structures and just general land, differences in terrain, all that helping to slow things down. And in fact, I want to show you, there's actually another area I just spotted down here a little bit further south, a similar scenario with that water spout beginning to potentially develop. Obviously, haven't seen anything from the National Weather Service yet at the moment, but I think this is going to be a common theme we see this morning with the areas of rotation best defined potentially out over the Gulf. And then as you move throughout the day and they move a little bit closer to the land, hopefully we'll continue to see those weaken as we've seen just further north towards Grayton Beach, Miramar Beach at the moment. In fact, the latest scan from our velocity here, it looks like things are generally just becoming a little bit broader, a little bit less well-defined at the moment, which is a good sign. But of course, that warning's still in effect. So it's important to take these things seriously until the threat has passed, of course. We're looking at radar scans that are multiple thousands of feet up in the atmosphere at the moment. So it helps get us an idea of what's happening down at the surface. But when we're this far away from the radar station, things can be different based on where we're looking in or what altitude we're looking at in the atmosphere. This is where that main area of rotation is at the moment. The lighter blues and the greens, they're kind of coupled together, defining where that rotation is occurring, generally moving towards the, looks like just to the west here of Grayton Beach, kind of centralized between Miramar Beach and Grayton Beach at the moment. And it looks like we're just a couple of minutes away now from this, what looks to be potentially a water spout making its way further towards the land. Zoom out here for the actual radar loop. In addition to the storms that we're seeing at the moment, that tornado warning, just a lot of lightning at the moment with this main line of storms, especially just to the west of where that area is developing. There's that dry air Ryan just mentioned beginning to further and further maybe make an impact on this main line of storms. But in addition to that, just to the south, lots and lots of lightning. So even if there's not a tornado warning in your area, anywhere along this 30A Back Beach Road, Highway 98 area, all of that, if you're going to be outside, it's still a potentially very dangerous situation there with all that lightning out there. You want to keep an eye on that. If you can hear thunder, get indoors, because that means that you can be struck by lightning. This is also one of those things that I think people might not take as seriously as the tornado warnings, but maybe just as impactful as of a hazard at the moment. I think we just got another radar scan in here in the last couple of seconds, Ryan. That 5 o'clock scan just came through, and it looks like, thankfully, maybe we're seeing that rotation. Oh, never mind. Rotation starting to tighten up just a little bit more here.
Yeah, and you brought up that one that was just off the coastline there. Now, that looks like that they have allowed for that rotation on the initial one to expire here. So we don't have the tornado warning in place necessarily for that storm cell anymore. As we watched it broaden out a bit more as it got towards the coastline. Dan mentioned that there's also another one kind of down the line out into the Gulf, and we'll see if that holds together long enough to maybe move towards the Bay County coastline. But at this point in time, they have dropped the tornado warning with that storm cell. Of course, this is still a very potent squall line. We still have winds coming out of the south ahead of it, winds coming out of the west very strong towards the squall line feature itself. So that's kind of priming our atmosphere for rotation. So we're going to keep monitoring that cell as it works its way up onto the coastline here. Severe thunderstorm warning is still intact with the cell, but the rotation has weakened as it moves its way up on towards the coastline. So at this point in time, we're going to get you back to regular scheduled program, which I believe will take a break first and come back to what will be the start of our 5 a.m. newscast. Stay with us, folks, as we continue to track this line of showers and thunderstorms.
Cozy up to the ultimate comfort food with Slim's Mac Bowl meals. Try the Tender Mac Bowl meal or the Buffalo Tender Mac Bowl meal. But hurry, they're only around for a limited time. Download the Slim Chickens app to order and earn rewards.
Sure, and this is a look at reflectivity on radar, and yeah, we still have a decent hook showing up. We're right around the Grayton Beach coastline right now, just a part of 30A, and this storm cell itself bringing some heavy and strong winds across the coastline to southeastern portions of Walton County, not quite into Bay County, which is just to the right side of your screen here, just in front of me, but we're right around the 30A region, right through Grayton Beach, where we're starting to see some of the rotation return with this storm cell, and it's still evident on storm structure here for us. We were talking about this storm showing signs of a classic cell that could be rotating, and it lost a little bit of that rotation not long ago, and now it's regained it. But we're in southeastern portions of Walton County around Grayton Beach. We need to be in our safe place here right now. This tornado warning goes until 5:30, but this is more of an imminent next 5 minutes kind of thing as it works its way up onto the coastline. If it continues to stretch a little bit further off towards towards the northeast. Then we'd be looking toward Freeport in maybe about the next 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and draw the storm squall here for you, get an idea of some timing as it works its way further off towards the north. We've got Great Beach Park. There you go. The next 3 to 5 minutes around the Seagrove Beach region as well. You start to move towards Choctaw in the next 10 to 15 minutes, and then I believe we'll be getting close to the Freeport region just a little bit past that. So that's if this, what appears to be a potential water spout moves its way onto the coast and maybe can hold its storm structure a little bit further as it works its way further off towards the northeast. So areas, once you get a little bit further past say Choctaw, we'll have to go ahead and just keep monitoring this system as it works its way further off towards the north. But certainly is getting very gusty, very windy with it as it works its way up onto the coastline. And this is a tornado-warned cell. And that latest radar scan has showed that couplet working its way, or that storm structure, I should say, on reflectivity, right up onto the coast. And what we're basically watching is some very strong winds coming in out of the south. And behind the squall, the winds are really whipping in from the west. And so you can see how the interaction between those two storm cells is starting to give us a little bit of storm structure that's wrapping back around on itself like this. And Dan, that's a classic look for us to see potential rotation in the atmosphere and why the storm cell immediately triggered another tornado warning.
Yeah, we just got a couple new updates from the National Weather Service kind of talking about why this is the case. The instability in the atmosphere at the moment is not high enough to sustain, long-term rotation in the atmosphere, but they have mentioned that over the next couple of hours as we approach those daytime hours, especially, that instability might just increase a little bit, especially with that warm front lifting north, even more so, temperatures increasing just slightly. But we have a couple other updates that just came through from the National Weather Service. First, we're watching two other areas of rotation just to the south of Seagrove Beach. One of those fairly broad in nature. I'm not sure I'm 100% sold on it. But then the other one, further south one, that's that water spout we talked about just a few minutes ago at about 4:55. That area seemed to be fairly well defined at the moment. All of this, though, beginning to weaken once again, and that kind of explains that that development and then falling apart of these quick rotations in this fairly stable atmosphere, all things considered. The last thing I want to leave you with, though, Ryan, maybe you can take a look at some of the correlation coefficients at the moment. They have now just said there's a confirmed tornado as they see debris signatures developing with the circulation that's just to the south of Seagrove Beach. That's the one that is warned at the moment. So I don't know if you could pull up the correlation coefficient for us and show us maybe that debris ball potentially over there at the wall.
Well, let's look at reflectivity and then again velocity signature to get an idea on where we do have some of the potential of seeing that, because we can pick up on debris in the atmosphere if we did happen to get a tornadic cell. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the one that we're looking at here, and it's right around the 30A region, Great Beach, Santa Rosa areas. And to get a look at debris, we flip over to our correlation coefficient. Now, radar scans send out in two waves now. It's called dual pole. You get a vertical wave, and then you get a horizontal wave. And because we can send out going in two different directions, we can get a 3D object of what the storm's doing. And that can pick up on anomalies, things that are a different structure than maybe what a raindrop is or maybe what a hailstone is. And if we can pick up on a structure that might be a little bit anomalous, well, then that can show up on signatures. And it looks like we do have a potential for debris to be in the air with this storm cell right around the Great Beach region here. I'm going to zoom in a little closer. This reflection of the radar beams showing something maybe that's a little bit anomalous in the skies here at this point in time, and that's what we call potential debris or maybe even a debris ball. And it looks like we are around the roads of Sandra Pass Boulevard, as well as maybe 263, 98, in this general vicinity, just northwest of Seagrove Beach Town Center. This radar scan may be coming in a couple minutes ago. We might get another update here in a couple more minutes as we cross over 98 and toward Choctaw. We'll see if this actually can hold together. If that's the case, then we might still have a tornadic cell that's been able to move its way up onto the coastline. Now, this was a water spout moving its way up onto the coast. And what we saw on radar now, a little bit of possible damage or debris showing up in the atmosphere, meaning that that tornado maybe hit some trees. Let's hope it didn't do any damage to any homes. But that it could be the case, unfortunately, in this scenario, as we're picking up on debris in the atmosphere that tornado has been able to pick up off the ground and lift up into the atmosphere to the point where our radar scans can pick it up here at this point in time. I'm going to flip over to our velocity signatures and see if we have the couplet still there. And yeah, this is in the general vicinity that we're still seeing some very strong winds rotating in the atmosphere here for us right now. So this is now a tornadic cell that's worked its way up off the Gulf as a waterspout and has been able to hold on to its structure, moving its way across the Seagrove Beach, the West Seagrove Beach area, east of Blue Mountain Beach, and is now starting to approach the Choctaw region. We need to go ahead and find our safe places with this storm cell. If you are on the border largely of 395, 98, if you're just east of 283, not far, but in that general vicinity here, we're watching rotation in the atmosphere that's already produced some debris in the air. So this is certainly a dangerous cell where we need to start finding our safe places. And if we are around the Choctaw area, north of Seagrove Beach, around 98, and what is 395. Dan, what do you see over there?
Just to the southeast of the tornado-warned cell we're watching at the moment, another area has just popped up, really tightened on the most recent radar scan. This one heading towards Rosemary Beach at the moment. I'll show you what I'm looking at right now. There's another one of those velocity couplets, as we call them. This one has been kind of wavering around and following a fairly non-linear path as it continued towards the shore at the moment. There's their rotation. It's generally heading in this direction. Right now, about 35, 40 miles per hour. So it's going to be on your doorstep fairly quickly here. And the National Weather Service said they're watching it at the moment. Potentially could see another warning here pop up in the next couple of minutes if this one holds together as it moves closer to shore. They've also confirmed that a tornado report just further to the northwest of where I'm looking right now, that one near Grayton Beach with a confirmed tornado based off of what they're seeing on radar right now. So this is a very potentially dangerous situation that we're looking at. You want to have your safe spaces here, no matter where you live along the coast right now, as these storms continue to spin up fairly quickly. It's a high alert kind of morning where things could pop up fairly quickly out there in the Gulf and be on your doorstep before you know it. So having that plan in place, knowing what you're going to do if that tornado warning pops up, certainly very important at this hour, Ryan.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Dan. Yeah, this is a prime scenario, especially for the coastline, to see potential for waterspouts to move their way up on towards the coastline. Latest on the tornado warned cell, it has moved its way towards the north and east now of Choctaw. We're starting to move a little bit closer to Freeport. This is a heads up now that we need to go ahead and find our safe zones. Quite a bit of gusty winds working their way up towards the northeast now, east of the Choctawhatchee Bay, and just starting to head toward what I believe to be is 394. Yep, that's exactly right. 394 cutting right across the top here. This storm cell itself is west of 331. We're off the coastline with this storm cell right now. There are some bigger returns even showing up. And just like Dan talked about, there we go. Now another tornado warned cell has popped up here with this segment. I'm going to back up just a little bit further so we can get a broader sense of what's going on, because Freeport may be just to the northwest of that cell that's moving its way off the Choctawhatchee, the eastern side of the Choctawhatchee Bay right now, just away from Choctaw. That is the tornado cell that we had produced some debris and is now confirmed a tornadic signature from the coastline there, from Grayton Beach, Seagrove Beach region, just to the west of Seagrove Beach. We saw some debris showing up on radar. That storm cell has now moved quickly northeast of Choctaw, and it's going to work its way across 394 and a little bit further off towards the northeast. Thankfully, not a whole lot there. This is going to get close to the Red Bay, Ebro region, though, as we head into the next 15 to 20 minutes. So go ahead and find your safe places at this point in time. Now, another storm cell just off the coast, and again, with the relatively frictionless environment over the Gulf that's primed our atmosphere with the changing winds that we've got, winds on the backside of the squall line coming in from the west, very fast winds showing up in that bright banding color of green and blue that you see coming up out of the south. It's really starting to wrap in on itself now and spawn these little couplets, these little tornadic cells here for us. And we've got another one that's trying to move its way up onto the coastline. This one just west of Inlet Beach. We're looking at just west of the Bay County and Walton County coastline, just around the, I want to say it's pretty close to, well, let's zoom in here and we can get a better idea on exactly what this one is moving on to. I don't want to give false information there. If we can just pop in. There's Rosemary Beach, and that's what I was looking for. It's looking like it's moving just towards the west of Rosemary Beach, but you can see the storm cell itself does have some pretty tight winds wrapping around themselves, moving onto the coast. So Rosemary Beach, you guys are under the gun right now. We need to find our safe places here. The scan, maybe even a minute or two late. We need to go ahead and find our safe places. Hunker down in there. That would be away from windows, bottom story of your house, centralized location of your household here. This tornado warning is in effect until 5:45, but it's not going to last that long. In fact, in the next radar scan, we could probably see it either up onto the coastline of Rosemary Beach right now in eastern 30A, or just starting to cross over the border of Walton into Bay counties. If you look a little bit further down the road, there's Roosevelt Beach, but I don't think, or Hollywood Beach, I don't think we have to worry too much about that storm cell moving that direction, but it's the Rosemary Beach region right now that's under the gun for this latest storm cell to work its way up onto the coastline. So we currently have a new tornado warning in place here. I believe that they've allowed, nope, they still have that second one there as well. So 2 tornado warned cells right now, Dan, that are moving along this squall line feature here. And I think this is going to, like you mentioned earlier, continue to be the case as these storm cells gain some rotation off the Gulf in that relatively frictionless environment and work their way up onto the coastline. We could be seeing just the beginnings of what could be a busy morning here.
Yeah, we've just seen the tornado warning continued for the first cell we were watching a little bit earlier. It's now moving just to the northeast of Freeport at the moment. There's a look at the signature at the moment. Still holding on to that fairly tight couplet of rotation, the lighter blues and the darker greens suggesting that there's some rotating winds right there at the moment. This one looks like it's going to head just to the west of Bruce and just even a little bit further west yet of Ebro as it continues to move towards the northeast, towards Red Bay. These are quick-moving storms, though. The National Weather Service in the latest tornado warning said that these storms are moving at 50 miles per hour. So it's not going to take a long amount of time for these to be on your doorstep. Of course, we have not one, but 2 storms out there at the moment as well. It looks like the one now just that was moving onshore from the Gulf. Look how quickly it has moved in the latest radar scan. 5 minutes ago, it was just to the southwest of Rosemary Beach, now to the north at the moment and continuing to march inland fairly quickly. So maybe, Ryan, with the pace of these storms are moving at the moment, the friction not having enough of an impact to help pull them apart just because they are able to withstand that friction based on how quickly they can progress inland.
Yeah, you know, and some of that rotation is probably surviving and thriving in this squall line environment where we've got winds moving in the atmosphere in different directions. Winds coming up very quickly out of the south, out ahead of the squall line feature, and winds coming quickly in behind this storm system. In fact, as the squall line itself, whether there's a tornado warning or not, It itself is producing some 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We're anticipating about 40 to 60-mile-per-hour winds with that squall line feature, whether or not we were going to see rotation with it. And we have seen some rotation develop because of the general setup that we've got with our winds along this squall line, along this cold front. It just presets the atmosphere to rotate in this general vicinity, and we've already seen some of the rotating storms develop from this nature of our atmosphere here right now. The line itself is moving rather quickly off towards the east. The squall line is going about 30 to 35 miles east per hour. But embedded in that squall line are these individual cells, and those ones are what moving lickety-split at about 50 miles per hour along the line. So we do have tornado-warned cells in this setup here for us. Going to stop our loop. I'm going to zoom in on the latest cell that we have tornado warned, and that is just around and north of Rosemary Beach right now. It's just crossed over portions of 98. We're going to start to move our way into the western side of Bay County, the northwest corner of Bay County. You can see Ebro's up the pipeline with this storm as well. And again, moving at 50 miles per hour, it's going to be on some of these general vicinities in a short time. In fact, Ebro, it might be a little bit closer to about the next 15, 20 minutes that'll be heading your direction. This storm cell moving at 50 miles per hour could certainly start to impact some areas ahead of that, though. Seminole Hills in the next 10 to 15 minutes, if not moving in maybe just a little bit faster than what some of these time frames are showing for us. But that's generally what's in the track of this storm cell as it moves fast, 50 miles an hour from the coast on up towards the northeast. And that would put Ebro, Seminole Hills in path of this storm cell itself. Now, there's two tornado-warned cells. The next one actually just a little bit further towards the north. Reflectivity does not show a whole lot with this one right now. I'm going to switch over to velocity. Yeah, some broad rotation going on with this one. If we pan down just a little bit, you can see some of that rotation maybe just looking a little bit better. Certainly some very gusty winds associated with this system as well, moving into Laguna Beach. Boy, those southerly winds very much in the brighter colors of the toward range going toward the radar. That easily could be 40 to 50 mile per hour winds moving right up off the coastline right now into Laguna Beach. And it's what's being wrapped around into this general vicinity that's created individual little couplets. We've got one located right here just off the coastline now of Rosemary Beach, trying to move off towards the northeast toward Ebro in the next about 15 minutes. And then we've got another couplet that's developed in eastern Walton County. We're southwest of Red Bay, but it'd be moving towards that general location here as we move into the next, say, 15 minutes as well. Here's our radar scan, and this one's moving almost generally directly toward that radar scan there to the northeast. So we are east of Freeport with that one. We're kind of not necessarily completely in farmlands there, but not a whole lot of town centers located there in between the Ebro and the Freeport region. But we are, let's see, we're west of Ebro. Let me get my measuring tool out here for you. We're west of Ebro with that storm cell, about 7 miles down the road if you were heading down 394. And then if you're east of Freeport, it's about 7 miles that general direction as well. So we're kind of caught right in between, about 7 to 8 miles in between Freeport and Ebro with that first storm cell, which is looking a little bit weaker here at this moment in time on velocity signatures. Let's get to the bottom cell that's worked its way through Rosemary Beach. See if we have any debris in the air with this one. Does not appear to be any debris associated with this storm cell, which is great news now as it's working its way further towards the north. And this is a tornado-warned segment that goes all the way up toward Ebro in association with this squall line feature. There's also a whole severe thunderstorm warned box along this line. And that's just basically for the straight line damaging winds that we could see either coming in out of the south ahead of the line, or maybe even when the line passes you by going toward the east, the westerly winds that'll start to pick up behind it. But But Dan, it's good sign that we're not seeing any debris with that storm cell, as it's starting to look like it's crossing over eastern, southeastern Walton County and going into northwestern Bay County.
Yeah, you mentioned passing over some thankfully less populated areas. Kind of scary when these things move right on shore where the beaches are so packed with people. Throughout the day so far, we've already seen a couple of areas that were where we did see those tornadic debris signatures on our radar. Some storm reports have now been put in from the National Weather Service, most of those near Grayton Beach, and then we had one just to the west of Ebro near Freeport, south of Highway 20. All of these were radar confirmed, so not spotted tornadoes on the ground reported from the public, but the National Weather Service has seen enough of an inkling of information to say with confidence that there was likely a tornado in these spots. Currently, though, like Ryan mentioned, we're seeing not much of the sort on our current debris signatures. We're seeing these two cells continue to unfortunately hold up just a little bit. The one that was more recently warned, that's moving towards Ebro at the moment at about 45 miles per hour. That one looks like it's holding up a bit better. I think the warning here as it approaches the radar in Red Bay is just weakening a little bit. Currently on the debris, though, not seeing anything of the sort. Great news there. But again, it's not just the tornadoes that are going to impact your morning today. On the radar at the moment, still seeing that line of heavy showers and storms continuing to move eastward, and they're moving quickly with plenty of lightning up there along this line, pretty much everywhere along the line as it continues to just march eastward across the panhandle. These severe thunderstorm warnings remain in effect. There'll probably be more warnings coming yet. I'll give one last check at the National Weather Service here. Just talking about maybe potentially extending that tornado watch eastward, something to watch for our friends further north and further east as well. But for now, not seeing any debris signatures, and I think that's the main positive to take away at the moment. Still, though, with any of these tornadic warned systems, you don't want to just get comfortable here if things are trending in the right direction for your neighborhood. If you're inside these red polygons on either side here, if you live in Ebro, for example, if you live in Bruce, still a very good idea to get into an interior room in your house, safe space away from windows. If you have the ability to get in a basement, that's obviously the best, but here in Florida, not really a commonality for many. So the best thing you can do is find potentially a bathroom or somewhere away from the exterior of your home and just bunker down a little bit and make sure you stay with us and keep an eye on, as we keep an eye on these systems continuing to move further north and watching for them to potentially maybe spin up some more out in the Gulf as well. What are you thinking over there, Ryan? You looked like you had a puzzled look on your face.
Yeah, as those cells are interesting because they've shown signs of moving along with some tighter rotation, then sometimes broadening out, then tightening back up again. And that can be the case as it encounters maybe some different areas of instability along this line of showers and thunderstorms. Sometimes there can be a little bit more energy in one spot of the atmosphere that maybe hadn't been tapped into just yet, and that re-energizes the storm cell, whips up those winds a little bit more so, as opposed to maybe it moved into an area that might have been already tapped out from some of the energy of the atmosphere, from some of the showers and thunderstorms that have already moved their way through, and then that cell kind of relaxes a little bit. But that's kind of why we need to stay on guard with this whole storm system and squall line feature as it moves its way off towards the east. For those that are just joining us here this morning, we do have a tornado warned cell that lasts until 5:45. It's kind of two spots, but generally I think that the one on the north side is weakened a little bit. We're just starting to see the next tornado warned cell. If you look closely at the box that's located in red, that's coming out of Walton County, moving into northwestern portions of Bay County, to the Seminole Hills region, eventually up towards the Ebro region here in about the next 5 minutes or so. Now it's about 5:28 here this morning, and we've got the tornado warning in place until 5:45. The storm line itself is moving east at about 35 miles per hour. So we can time that out maybe toward Highway 231 as we get a little bit closer to, say, about 6 o'clock here this morning. Maybe getting a little bit more into our eastern counties or approaching portions of the Apalachicola River as we get toward about 7, 8 o'clock, and then maybe into Liberty and Franklin counties about 8, 9 o'clock here this morning. That'll be about the timing of the line of showers and thunderstorms as it moves east. Now, the line itself, actually has storm cells that are moving very quickly on a northeasterly path and a northeasterly trek along the squall line that's heading east. And these individual cells themselves are moving quick at 50 miles per hour. And so these little spin-ups can happen fast and get on you a little bit quick. And that's why we need to be thinking about watching these cells closely and making sure that we are monitoring them. Now, rotation has looked like it's backed off quite a bit here for us on velocity signatures, but we still, Dan, have some very strong straight line winds occurring with this. You can see that in the brighter shades of green and blues. Some strong winds still coming out of the south. Whether or not they're rotating or not, some of those can even be potentially hazardous here for us this morning.
Yeah, plenty of strong straight line winds continuing. That was one of the main impacts we expected with the system. You mentioned the weakening rotation across the area right now. I do want to bring to your attention that the National Weather Service has allowed one of those tornado warnings to expire. That one ended at 5:30, which it is currently at the moment. Canceled the other one that was to the southeast. That one was moving towards Ebro. Both of those not holding together enough to warrant a tornado warning at this time, but still that line continuing eastward at the moment, and the wind speeds are nothing to sniff at. These straight line winds anywhere from 50 to 60 miles per hour. That's at the severe weather or severe thunderstorm warning threshold at the moment, and they'll be through Bay County here fairly quickly in the next couple of minutes as we approach 6 o'clock and especially 7 o'clock. Many of us experiencing the worst of the shower and thunderstorm activity. But the good news here for now is that there are no tornado warnings popping up on our radar, and at the moment, and maybe I'll bite my tongue on this, not seeing any rotation that would warrant another tornado warning to be issued for the next couple of minutes. So, Ryan, it looks like we're just dealing with some severe thunderstorms here for the foreseeable future, hopefully.
Yeah, so let's just hunker down as this line of showers and thunderstorms continues to progress toward the east. Like we talked about, there's still going to be some very strong straight line winds, whether they're rotating or not. And a new severe thunderstorm warning has been extended basically all the way to the Apalachicola River. That'll last until 7 o'clock. We were talking about the timing of some of these showers and thunderstorms. We'll expect to see this line of storms pass over Highway 231 as we head towards the 6 to 7 o'clock hour and then start to move towards the Apalachicola River by about 7 to 8 o'clock here this morning. Now, while no rotation showing up on radar, we have seen signs of these individual cells rapidly spinning up. So we're going to continue to monitor the situation. If a tornado warned cell was to pop back up here for us, we'll immediately jump in and let you know where that cell is located and who needs to hunker down. But right now, let's just in general be safe about going outside until this line of showers and thunderstorms passes you by towards the east. Once it does so, areas like Walton and Okaloosa counties are clear of the showers and thunderstorms, but probably still dealing with a little bit of whipping winds now moving their way in from the west. So with no tornado warning cells in place right now, we're going to go ahead. It's about just after 5:30. We're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to start up the 5:30 news half hour here with you. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.